teachers don't have to address pupils in chosen pronouns under government's new transgender guidance, fake gender. Remember, trans equals fake. A trans woman is a fake woman, a biological male. A trans man is a fake man, a biological female. XY equals biological male. XX equals biological female. That's the biology, that's the reality, that's the way it is. And here, God created. He has standards. He created in the beginning man and woman for a purpose, for a reason. He ordained it. Genesis chapter 1:26 onwards. Then God said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the heavens, and over the livestock, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps on the earth. So God created man in his own image. In the image of God he created him. Male and female he created them. And God blessed them, and God said to them, be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the heavens, and over every living thing that moves on the earth. And God said, behold, I have given you every plant yielding seed that is on the face of all the earth, and every tree with seed in its fruit, you shall have them for food, and to every beast of the earth, and to every bird of the heavens, and to everything that creeps on the earth, everything that has the breath of life. I have given every green plant for food. And it was so. And God saw everything that he had made, and behold, it was very good. And there was evening, and there was morning, the sixth day. There we have it. God created biological male and biological female for a purpose, for a reason. Created in the image of God. Created to fill the earth. That means procreation, reproduction, and fill the earth and subdue it. Fill it, it says. Not kill your babies in the womb because you can't really afford to buy them. Let's just say something which is, in the eyes of the world, deemed as a necessity, i.e. you can't afford to give them the latest gadgets, etc. And back to the article. The draft publication provides guidance for teachers on how best to support pupils questioning their gender in schools, including requests to social transition. Notice it's just guidance. Teachers in England, no doubt in Wales, the teachers will be forced to call a child whatever they decide it wants to be. Teachers in England have been told they do not have to address pupils in their chosen pronouns under new government guidance on how to best to support transgender students. By the way, this is off Sky News. It states that children, teachers or staff at a school should not be required to adopt the use of preferred pronouns. In the absence of preferred pronouns, the child's preferred name should be used, with schools having a duty to ensure bullying is never tolerated. Let's just go back to that. Preferred name to be used. Okay, so you've got little biological male Johnny sitting over there. Because it's no longer a requirement for the teacher, if the little Johnny decides the teacher's got to call him her or she or whatever. So Johnny decides his preferred name is Michelle. So does that mean the teacher then has to call little Johnny Michelle? With schools having a duty to ensure bullying is never tolerated, the guidance also states that schools and colleges do not have to and should not accept all requests for social transition. Social transitioning relates to a pupil requesting to change pronouns, names and uniform. So basically, as I've just given an example, little Johnny wants to be called he, she, it, whatever. The teacher doesn't have to do that. Also, the school doesn't have to allow them to wear a female uniform if they're a biological male, or a male uniform if they're a biological female. Other main points from today's development include schools should make sure competitive sport is fair for all students, which will almost always mean separate sports for boys and girls. Strange thing is, kids are going to be looking at that and thinking to themselves, whoa, Dave, who's now Deborah, was in the boxing ring last night, knocking 10 bells of garbage out of Samantha, who's a biological female. So, if adults are the example, why am I as a child being told that I now, if I'm a biological male, can't compete in biological female sports so I can knock the crap out of them? Schools must provide sex-separated toilets for students ages 8 and over and suitable for changing accommodation and showers for pupils aged 11 and over. You know what, kids are in school. Come on, imagine if this ludicrous garbage was going on when we were at school. You know, the lads would be going, well, I think I'll say I'm a girl and go in the girls' bogs and go in their showers with them. Yeah, you know, insanity. We shouldn't have to be laying these lines, these guidances out. It's obvious. Little boys are little boys, little girls are little girls, and the reasons we separate them in the showers. Single-sex schools can refuse to adopt pupils of the opposite biological sex, regardless of whether they are questioning their gender. Same again. You know, if you were a bit of a pervy lad when you were younger, or just a bit mischievous, I'm Deborah today and I want to go to that girls' school over there. You know, I mean, most lads wouldn't, would they? But like I say, you're a bit of a pervy one, a bit of a strange one. A gender-questioning child should wear the same uniform standard as other children of their sex. Guidance, remember? Guidance, okay? Sleeping arrangements like dormitories, tents and shared rooms should be sex-separated. All this is quite obvious, isn't it? But we're living in a world that can't decide that 3 and 3 equals 6. They take it into their heads. It could equal whatever whoever's adding it up wants it to be. So how do they get the right answers in exams anymore? I just don't know. The draft is non-statutory, with parents and teachers now urged to have their say in a 12-week consultation. Now, this is the Kemi Badenoch, Minister for Women, was speaking to reporters. This is comprehensive guidance. It can't be the case that teachers have a lot of leeway and we're also forcing them to tell parents. So in other words, you know, parents need to know, etc. Whereas the lunatics out there want to take your children from you, like in Canada, whereby parents don't have to know what's going on in the minds of their children if they decide in their heads, because some adult who's a bit of a twisted person has persuaded them that they could actually be a woman if they're a boy, or a girl, a boy if they're a girl. All this, see how confusing it is? What we are doing is making sure that for those schools who are very confused about what to do, confused, they're all confused these days, don't they? You know, all these lunatics are getting into their heads and are getting very bad advice from organisations like Stonewall, among others, understand what the government believes should be done. Now, Liz Truss, who was the Prime Minister for a couple of hours, said the guidance does not go far enough. Probably this is the only thing we would agree with Liz Truss about. She called for a change in the law rather than a non-statutory guidance. And that's right. It's weird how we've got to make a law. Unbelievable. God made the law. The procreative law. We've read it to you. In the beginning, so God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created them male and female. He created them and God blessed them. And God said to them, be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth and subdue it and have dominion over the fish of the sea, etc., etc., etc. Ms. Truss said, I fear that activists and others will be able to exploit loopholes in the guidance and the existing legal frameworks to pursue their agenda, leaving children at risk of making irreversible changes and with single-sex spaces not sufficiently protected. Yes, children at risk, chemical castration, sex changes, like they're doing in Canada. If a kid wants a sex change, oh, you can have a sex change, like we'll mutilate you. We'll give you all these jabs, for your hormones, etc., etc. And the amount now who have come out and said who have had this done, and no doubt they'll be suing the government soon for not protecting them from these, I call them, I think they're paedophiles, I think they're sick, twisted people, no better than Mengels in the concentration camps and the sickos that want to do experiments on people and children, because this is what they're doing to your children. They want to experiment on them. There's something going on which most people can't see. They're just brainwashed into believing this garbage. Irreversible changes, and with single-sex spaces not sufficiently protected, the former Prime Minister called on government to back her Health and Equality Acts Amendment Bill, which she first put to Parliament on the 6th of December. Under the proposed amendments bill, social transitioning would not be recognised by schools of the state in children, and puberty blockers and hormone treatment for gender dysphoria would be banned for under 18s. How many of them under 18s who have had all this done are going to be coming back and suing the governments and suing the taxpayer? And those who pay our taxes are going to be paying millions and millions and millions out to these young, who were once young children, who were abused by the very people who are supposed to be protecting them. Liz Truss said, I fear that activists and others will be able to exploit loopholes here. I think I've gone over that. And that's it. That's the article. Sky News. You can find it on there if you so wish.